Hi, Agnes, Brandon. I hope you're doing really well. But I'm sorry that the world has kind of created this construct where it's much more difficult for us to meet. There's a few things that I would suggest that you do between now and the time that we can reconvene our work, just to help maintain your hip stability, and also really help two things: your knee, few things, your knee, your foot, and the freedom that you were describing on your staircase. First and foremost, this really won't require any visual instruction for it, but I would suggest continue doing the stair work that you've been doing the side steps, doing the every other step, really focusing on controlling coming down the stairs. And I would say in most cases, try to progress to going as slow as you can and without your hand support in the cases you feel the most comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. Don't rush anything. But as we saw, even with the few weeks of you doing that exercise, going up those stairs really made a big difference. Now, with the foot stuff that we were talking about, what I wanted to really quickly describe is the toe exercises you're doing. I hope you've continued to do them. If you have any questions about them, please reach out. There are a couple of things that happen within your foot. First and foremost, we talked about there are two different arches, right? We've got the big arch here, and then in the front, and you can kind of almost see it with a shoe, is that on the bottom here, there's an additional arch. And so if you look inside of a shoe, there's kind of an arch that goes from side to side, which is what fills up the arch of your foot from side to side, and there's an arch from front to back. That arch is 100% created from muscular tension. And so there's this stuff called plantar fascia, which is an extension of the muscle, which is what helps to pull the two bottoms of the shoe together, or the foot rather, to create that arch. Now, what can happen over time is if the top, this is why we're doing this exercise, if the muscles on the top of the foot are not strong enough in comparison to the bottom of the foot, the bottom muscles are too strong. All of those muscles come down through the arch and attach down to the toes. And so what happens, just like with my hand, is if I tighten everything on the inside here and relax on this side, everything is going to start favoring the side that's stronger over time, which is where you see some people have what's called claw toes, where the toes are kind of clawing underneath. And so how that happens is everything on the bottom here is pulling so hard that it's trying to pull the toes down. Now, hammer toes versus claw toes, right? Claw toes are where they're clawing underneath. Hammer toes are where they claw underneath and kind of bulge up. And how this happens is when you have someone like yourself, and part of this is genetic, but part of it is a strength thing, is that where the bottom of the muscles are too strong, they're trying to curl your toes down. But as you can see, by trying to curl your toes down, it changes the geometry of your foot. And when you go on a flat surface, these toes are already curled down, but they're going to try to get shoved back up. And so even with my shoe, if I can force that, you can see that I've got the toes being curled down, but the knuckle, the toes are being pushed up. And it has to happen like this because as your foot hits the ground, it's going to need that flat surface for a stable base, but it can't deal with those toes underneath. And one of two things happens, and I'm glad it's happening for you as it is. One, the toes continue curling underneath and they get squished underneath the foot, and that's where you get really bad injuries to the bed of the toenails and loose toenails and stuff like that. And then the other is what you're experiencing, where they curl underneath and they push back up. So structurally, there's been some changes there. But as we've been working on with your foot coming up and your toes opening and closing, if we can increase the strength on the top, that's actually going to start to help open up the toes. And at the very, very least, prevent the condition from progressing anymore. And if any of it has not become a bony adaptation and is still inflammation-based or cartilage-based, there's an opportunity to make some change. You're so strong and healthy that if you continue doing it, it will make a really big difference. So I hope that helps. I hope your homework is making sense. I hope the stair thing makes sense. The last thing I would say is if you're feeling up to it, please continue with all of the hip exercise, just these two hip exercises where you're bringing your hip out to the side and back in and try to contract everything on the abduction side of things, and then continue either with the straight leg hip flexion or the bent leg hip flexion. But take these, try to organize them in a way that they're kind of a workout, if you will. If you can even do these a couple weeks, it won't necessarily improve the strength of many elements, except for your toes, but it'll create a great foundation for us to progress when I can either come to your place again next, or we can have you back in the facility. Agnes, if you have any questions, call, email me anytime. I really appreciate being in your corner. Love working with you, and I'm really excited to support you further. If you have any questions, reach out, and we will make sure that we get everything, we make sure that you are a strong rock star and ready to take on the world when you want to. Anyway, Agnes, thank you. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.